Hello y'all, Wiggle here. So I'm working on some Zone Zero projects today. It's cloudy outside, so the greenhouses are not heating up. It's not a real warm day. It's going to rain. So I prioritize some Zone Zero work, which if you don't know what that is, it's the closest zone to where you live. Zero is like ground zero. In permaculture there's different zones, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, on and on and on. Zone Zero is like inside the house. And you can classify the zones in different ways, but at any rate, I'm going to show you how to make a foundation of buckets. So if you're ever storing stuff in buckets, you can use the buckets for a foundation for your bed in an apartment or a small house, tiny home. All that storage space, you can take advantage of it. So what I have here is an old box spring. You can see that it's broken. So I've already pulled this frame out. I'm leaving the outside frame intact, but I'm going to take this inner frame out. You can see right there. It's just stapled in there. So I'll just pull that off. I'm going to pull all this out right here. And then I'm going to put some more bracing on. So this is only like a 3/4 inch board, so I need to find some short screws. And I'm going to replace this structure with just a deck where I'm going to screw it right in. Now you can use OSB or whatever. Best idea is to match it up. That's like 5/8, 3/4, something in that range. If you can get the exact same boards, match them up. Now you don't have to put plywood necessarily. You could put rails. You can cut little thin pieces to save on material cost. Put a couple rails. The idea of this is that the buckets are going to sit inside of this. The frame will fit over the buckets, and that will be your foundation. You'll get rid of your metal frame. This will be the foundation for your mattress. So I'm going to work on that and then show you what it looks like. So I want to show you something. First of all, this is just scrap lumber from my sawmill that I cut to the right length. Now when you have these little staples sticking out, just take your pliers, like a good pair of Klein lineman pliers are better, but just bend it until it breaks, and it's out of your way. And also, you can reuse these strips if you needed to. These are broken and warped, and I'm not going to mess with it because I have other lumber, but to save money, I'm a big proponent of reusing things. So this is a resource you could use these as skids, at least for part of what you're trying to do. But I'm just going to try to get my sawmill scraps, and I'm leaving enough to screw in to the main 1x4 frame for it. Then you want to make sure your screws don't poke through. So you got to use small enough screws that you're not poking through and tear your mattress. And you don't want to screw from the other side. You could try to do that, but then you'll be hitting your buckets if there's anything sticking out. So make sure your screws are not too long. You have to be very particular about that in this case. So I'm going to break off these staples and then get my boards in there, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, Wiggle here. We got all my sawmill scraps in there. I put one screw in each joint. So a couple of pointers I had. Get as long a boards as you can if you're using one piece, and make sure that you can tuck them in. Make sure you can. So you want them as long as you can. That way you can screw to the top and bottom. But you don't want them so long you can't get them in there. And if you, depending on what you have, you may not be able to slide them back and forth very easily. So just cut your first board if you're using one-piece boards and make sure you can get them in there. Then that's your best length. Then you can cut the rest. Don't cut them all at once until you try to fit them in there. Make sure you get them in there, and then I just put one screw. Now there's a trick. Depending on how thick your boards are, you want to make sure you're not poking through the other side. And if you're really close and the little tip is pointing out when you screw it in, put it in a little bit of an angle, and that way that little tip won't poke out. So you want to make sure you're not poking out on the other side. So this is all done. And for demonstration purposes, these are all empty. So I turned them upside down. You could actually, once they're filled, you could put them in upside down if your frame, depending on your measurements. My measurements, I guess I should mention that. These buckets are approximately 12 inches. Less on the bottom because they're narrow, they taper. They're like 12 inches on the top, 10 inches on the bottom. And this particular thing is like 55, 56, something like that. And inside the frame part is like this, maybe 6 feet. Anyway, you can see it's approximately 6 feet. So I know that it'll be 6 buckets this way and about 5 buckets this way because of that. Almost 5 feet. So I did 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 6 by 4. That's plenty of room. Once you get your buckets in there and in place, you can kind of shuffle it all around and make sure you get as many under there as you can. But just for this demonstration purpose, I have 4, 4, 4, 12 plus 9. I have 21 buckets. Probably end up with like 24 under there. And I believe this is the queen size. So I'm going to go ahead and set the mattress on there and show you what I'm talking about. Normally I would probably have these buckets turned over with the lid side up if you had stuff in them or whatever. You can store water, you can store anything. It doesn't have to be food, but you could put food in them as well. If you did like Mylar or even if you just stuck them in there dry, there's no Mylar. You might have bug issues later, but that's a different. The point is just how to get buckets under your bed. And a king bed would hold probably about 36 or something. I don't even know. So let me set this down. So here it is. Jostle them around a little bit. They're all under there sitting flat. Now I'm going to pop off the box springs and show you what we got. So that's the final arrangement when they're upside down. I got 25 buckets under a queen size bed. And I was going to tell you when I had it, it was like 8 inches off the ground, the box springs. No, it was 9 inches off the ground, and then normal with the metal frame was 7.5 inches to the bottom of the box spring here. So from the ground, from the floor to this was 7.5. Now it's about 9. So I added a couple inches of height, but it's not going to matter. And it's solid, it's going to be. I'll put it back on and show you. I did say 25 buckets, right? So we added a couple more. And it kind of, I had to jockey it around a little bit. It wasn't exactly perfect, but we got them in there, got it sitting flat. So it's 8 3/4 about, and it was 7.5. 7.5, 8.5. So 1 3/4 height added to the bed in this instance. Yes, it's an ugly sheet. This is just a guest bedroom. But the bed's all flat, level, and sturdy. There's no problem. You couldn't tell. Didn't have a nice foundation under it. It's just fine. It's actually more sturdy than an old broken one was. So I took a worthless old box spring and turned it into this. Now you can make sure to get your handles all turned in if it's upside down. The other way, you put a bud ruffle on it or whatever, bed skirt, whatever you call it. People wouldn't even know unless they're looking under there. And yeah, you lose some of your other kind of storage, but 25 buckets. It's 125 gallons of storage. And tell me that wouldn't be useful in an apartment or a small house, tiny home, RV or whatever. If you have a bed, that's one way to store some food. Or other things, water, whatever, dog food, detergent, whatever it is you want, paint. So anyway, hope that was helpful. We'll go out.